Hello everybody and welcome back to another Jurassic Blocky video. Now, as we all know, many other people have been struggling to get first place in the Distortus Rex boss fight to actually unlock the DREX as a playable character. Now, actually, there has been a lot of discussion on which species is the best for this boss fight and a lot of complaints on the implementation of this animal's requirements. Now, many people complain that the Invictus Rex is the best animal for this game and that people only use it, can only win with it. Now, the Invictus Rex, in my opinion, is the best animal for the D-Rex boss fight. However, it is not the only way you can beat it. The Invictus Rex is obviously even more expensive than the D-Rex itself, so it would kind of be contradictory to buy the Invictus Rex just so you can unlock the D-Rex. Now, of course, having that species on top of that is also amazing, so I wouldn't say that you shouldn't use your money for the Invictus Rex. However, if you strictly just want the D-Rex and you don't want the Invictus Rex, I think you can do other things. Now, I have done various tests with different species and seeing on how high I can place with these different species. Now, I myself have tested 7 different species, some of them that I have chosen myself, and others that I have seen people saying that they are really good for the boss fight themselves. Now, of course, we're going to start off with the Invictus Rex, which is actually the dinosaur I was able to beat the Distortus Rex first place on my first try. Now, the Invictus Rex is really good for a multitude of things. Its stamina, its speed, and its attack damage allow it to do a lot of damage to the Invictus Rex while also being able to outrun it, stay alive in the fight longer. Now, this is a good species. However, the obvious thing is that it costs way too much. Without requirement, it's 75k, and with requirement, it's 50k, which is still a lot of time. And the T-Rex, again, is only half of that with 25,000, albeit with a few other requirements. But there are some other animals that you can use that are definitely more economically friendly. Now, starting off with obviously the other 3 large carnivores in this game, that being the Giganotosaurus, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the Spinosaurus. Now, during my tests, there are different things that came with all 3 of these species. Now, first, let's talk about the Giganotosaurus. Now, the Giganotosaurus was obviously the one that I struggled the most with, and I honestly had the worst performance with this species. Now, I don't think that this animal is bad. I wouldn't recommend it myself. I am not that skilled at the game, so this can definitely vary depending on the player. But the Giganotosaurus in my tests, I found that it was too slow to be able to run away from some of the attacks that the Distortus Rex would do, such as the large swinging attack and the AoE attack, which I saw that it greatly diminished the amount of damage I could do. Yes, it has more health than the other large carnivores, and yes, it does hit harder, but I don't really think that this species is the best one when it comes to the 4 large carnivores. I honestly really think that this is probably the worst placed with, and I honestly think the worst one that you could fight the Distortus Rex with. However, you are always welcome to try on your own and try your own tests, but myself, I didn't find it really having much success with it. Now, another large carnivore that I used was the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, originally, I didn't really think this animal was going to be a good choice, but I actually found myself quite surprised. This animal has a good amount of speed, health, and attack. Now, it is not as good as the Invictus Rex, but the large amount of damage that you're able to do with its attacks really does help it. Now, what I recommend with this species is that it's not really that fast or it doesn't really have that much good stamina. I would definitely recommend to just still be wary of when the AoE is going to occur. Now, just due to the AoE tech, I definitely do think that you need to be wary of that and just be able to predict and know when the Distortus Rex is going to do the AoE attack so you're able to get enough distance from it to avoid the attack. I honestly got a top 5 placement with this species. However, I do think that I could have gotten first if I just tried a little bit harder and I knew a little bit more about Spinosaurus's attacks and the speed and all of its different assets. The Spinosaurus is a good choice for the Distortus Rex just because it is the fastest large carnivore and it has good stamina and it has a decent amount of health. Because it's so fast, it's able to dodge a lot of the Distortus Rex's big attacks. And it's also able to get enough distance from the AoE. And I honestly do think that if a person tries really hard with the Spinosaurus, that they're going to be able to beat the DREX and get first place as well. But I just think that I couldn't really do it just because of a skill issue. And I do not think that this animal is bad. I just think that this animal is probably top 3 species to use for the Distortus boss fight. Now, obviously, the first 4 animals that I used were the large carnivores, but I also used 3 other animals that I thought could maybe work as well. The other animals that I decided to use was obviously the Suchomimus. Now, the Suchomimus, I've been hearing a lot of people say that this animal is really, really good for the Distortus boss fight due to it's actually not being that big of a difference of health between the Spinosaurus and Suchomimus. Suchomimus has 1700 health, which is only 300 less than Spinosaurus, and the thing is way faster and has more stamina. And due to its height, it's also able to hit the animal without much struggle. It's able to side box very effectively, and if you're able to manage your distance, you shouldn't die a lot of times. Like, I didn't really die a lot with this animal. I honestly think that this animal is probably one of the best ones. It is the best species that you can use besides the Invictus Rex, and I highly recommend you use this animal if you have low coins to use. It is very cheap, and it's fast, and it's effective, and I think it does wonders in the D-Rex boss fight. I actually fought multiple Invictuses, and I was in first place by a margin in this footage, so you can just see that the Suchomimus is really good. And this was my first time playing with the Suchomimus, just so you guys know. So I do think that Suchomimus is highly effective for the boss fight. However, by the end, I did let second place take first place, as I didn't want to steal someone else's DREX just so I could get first place just to test for a video. Now, one of the species that I used that I thought could possibly work as well is the Iguanodon. Now, the Iguanodon I didn't score as well as the Suchomimus. However, the Iguanodon, I do see the potential. Now, during my Suchomimus gameplay, second place was actually an Iguanodon. Now, there was a big margin between him and me. However, I do think that the Iguanodon has a lot of potential to be a good animal to use in the D-Rex boss fight. Now, the Iguanodon has a good mixture of stamina, health, and attack. However, I do think the thing that it struggles with is height. Due to its lower hitbox, it can't really hit the D-Rex in specific situations where the T-Rex's tail is more elevated. I had to really only focus on his legs, or maybe when the tail was a little lower, because I just struggled to hit the D-Rex when he was in those starting positions. Now, the health that it has is the same as Spinosaurus, and I do think it's a little slower, but it also has way more stamina, so I do think that this animal could also be a good asset if you just want another option. And again, that person in second place did really put the work in with Guanodon, so I do think that this animal could also be another good contender for a good species for the D-Rex boss fight. Now, the last species that I used was the Triceratops. Now, the Triceratops, I heard people saying that this was another good herbivore to use for the D-Rex boss fight, and I was very surprised. The good thing about the Triceratops is that it's very bulky and that it does a lot of damage. However, its speed and stamina are pretty eh. And I do think that this animal matching Spinosaurus is actually really, really good. This is another animal that you could use if you want to favor staying in the fight longer than the Spinosaurus, but it also really depends that if you know your timing, because if the D-Rex starts the AoE, you're probably going to get hit with it full force, and that is going to leave you low a lot. So you need to be able to tell beforehand when the AoE is going to occur. And I think that would definitely help you on getting the D-Rex environment done. Now, these are just my studies and tests that I have been able to do throughout these following days, and I really do want to know your guys' thoughts on these. Are there any other species that you think are good? Do you contest with any of my opinions? Please let me know down in the comments. But that's everything for me. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. But I will see you guys later.